Today, we'll be speaking with John Housholder. He's been a high school teacher, he's been an entrepreneur, and he's transitioned from an outside industry into sales not once, but twice. And you are going to love this interview. Stay tuned, it's coming up next.
Welcome to Seller's Journey, the podcast where we speak to great sales reps and leaders and share their real stories from start to sales success.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
Man, I am doing great. How about you?
Doing really well. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. You have an exceptional role. I'm super pumped today.
I'm excited to tell it.
So let's get this right. Strategic Partner Account Manager, and you're at WP Engine. We're a customer, a happy customer as well. And
awesome!
Yeah. I love how you characterize it. The world's largest WordPress digital experience platform. That's a mouthful. What's the elevator pitch? What's the value prop of the company?
A lot of people kind of consider it maybe as a hosting company, or maybe a software company. We're kind of both of those, right? We're a platform, and it's a platform that provides, brands, agencies, solutions that they need to create remarkable sites and apps on WordPress that drive their business forward faster.
Fantastic. And even better, now that we've got you on the record about that, depending on how the conversation goes, I can always bring it back up with our account manager. So this is awesome. I'm looking forward to this.
Hold us to it. I mean, one thing I love about us is, we're an open source and we're a month-to-month company. So we have to, we have to prove our value every day. So hold us to that.
Love it. So we've had a chance to chat before, but maybe you can help our audience. Whereabouts are you right now? Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Music City, USA, Nashville, Tennessee.
Love it. And where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
I grew up in West Tennessee in a city called Memphis, home of the blues, right? Went down south to Mississippi State for college and got an undergrad degree in education. And then went to grad school at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And then transitioned into the classroom and taught high school for a year in the States and then 4 years in Vienna, Austria. So then I moved to Nashville and got into sales.
So I gotta double click on that a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, the beginning of that story sounds like you followed a game plan. You went to school, you did the master's, you started teaching high school. And like all high school teachers, you go to Vienna. Catch us up. What was the reason there? How did that come to be? That's awesome.
Sure. So I remember I was in grad school. I was getting ready to graduate, and I was kind of like, what's next? Do I want to stay in Knoxville? A lot of my friends were married, and I didn't really think that was the best place for me. And it was one day that I think I was like sick or something. I was at home and I was looking on the internet and trying to figure out where I could teach. I was like, maybe I'll just teach overseas. And I saw a picture of Vienna and had like the Alps in the background. And so I, made a couple phone calls and kind of thought I was going to go skiing every weekend and, hiking every weekend in the summer. Once I got there, I realized that Vienna is not in the Alps.
So there's a good lesson there about trusting the website, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I help people build websites now, marketing sites now. They had a really good marketing team, right? I guess I should have looked it up on Google Maps or something.
So I love that. The idea of where can I teach? You find this great opportunity. But you left teaching and got into tech sales with Dell. I mean, great company, but that's a left turn. What came? What happened there? How did you get into tech sales? What was that journey?
Sure. I think it's a classic case of I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, just because I felt like there were a lot more people here than I knew anywhere else in the world. So I moved to Nashville and started looking for teaching jobs, and I had been living in Europe. So most of my clothes were European at that time. Like I showed up in like skinny jeans and a skinny tie, and that was a little much for
for
I
the
think
high
for,
schools in Tennessee.
yes, during that time, right? Very, very popular now, but not so much then. So, I guess that's what I blame not getting a job. I was not offered a job, right?
Yeah.
Anywhere. And so, I was like, what do I do? I had made some websites before. So doing a little of that on the side, but, was looking for something a little more concrete. And Dell had a big call center in town, and I'd always,
Hmm.
enjoyed computers. So, I went to Dell and actually sold, I was in their software and peripherals division, which is everything but computers, which is interesting, right? So, yeah, I think, one of the great stories from there is, I worked on a team that sold Dell printers. And I know that
Dell
we joked about
printers.
this. Yeah, we joked
Yeah.
about this before, right? Like,
Mhm.
who's ever bought a Dell printer? And that's the problem we were looking to solve, right?
So how did you do?
I personally did amazing. I was the number one sales rep in the country, and on my
That's
team.
great.
The great thing about it, I think our division wasn't successful because I only sold 6 printers in a month. So I would make
Okay.
140 to 50, dialer calls a day, calling out on people who had bought a laptop online but had not included a Dell printer, and offer it for 50% off.
Wow.
And so literally, just over one yes a week. And I tried everything. Like, I was like, hey, only for the next 24 hours, only for the next 48 hours, only to the end of this week. Like, I tried
That's
everything, right?
grueling.
Like, had to be
Wow.
very, very, very creative. And then after, a quarter, they're like, well, we're done with this. Get back to try something else. So,
So I love the way you characterize the story. You come back, you're taking swings at but missing in interviews. We speak to a lot of people who have similar experiences when they're trying to figure out what's next. Then you land that opportunity, and same thing. We hear that. Uh, I'd love to hear your perspective on it, though. What surprised you most, about that sales experience? I mean, I'm sure you've learned a lot since, but as you were sitting in that seat, you're dialing and trying to sell those printers, what struck with you most?
I mean, I think for me personally, like, I love, a couple of things about sales. And one of those is just like, the storytelling aspect, and the
Mhm.
teaching aspect, right? Like, having 2 degrees in education, like, I mean, I taught in some schools where, kids always didn't want to learn, right?
Hmm.
And being able to connect with them, and tell them a story about, you know, World War II, or what started World War I, right? Like, just being able to put something in a simple, easy to digest, format that they could remember, hopefully for the
Mhm.
rest of their lives. Like, I think that kind of resonated, with sales. I mean, unfortunately, like, selling printers, like, it is what it is, right? Like, you're,
Mhm.
but once you get into more like complicated, like, more solution type selling, I think, where you need to, understand your audience, tell a story that connects to them, right? Because, that's a lot of what tech sales is, and software sales is connecting those dots and telling that story, that helps, a business or a person or a company or whatever, achieve their goals.
I love the way you think about it and the way you speak about it, and I really do want to spend more time talking about the printers. But you've got this unique journey where you've done this transition again, not just once but twice. Uh, you left L and you launched your own company. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So, I kind of alluded to this. I was building, websites on the side,
Hmm.
while I was working at Dell. And I'd started working with a couple people in town. Um, and they were like, hey, you got to meet this guy. He's coming through town. He was working with, some political folks in DC. You need to meet with him. I was like, it was
Okay.
another one of those days, right? Like, told about when I moved to Vienna, like, for some reason I was off this day. I don't know why at Dell I was off. And so I was like, hey, I'll go grab lunch with the guy. And basically what they were trying to do was to create what, we now call like a content marketing site, right? To
Hmm.
see if there was validity in a woman running on the Republican ticket.
Mm.
And back then there weren't a lot of women, running on the Republican ticket. And
Wow.
so they were going to have some people write some thought pieces about it that, people had heard of, and just kind of see, like, Facebook would just kind of come around, like, see how many likes and shares and all that kind of stuff they could get. Um, and they said, all right, I went and I actually learned, like, WordPress in like a weekend at something called, WordCamp, which is like a WordPress conference. Came home,
Mhm.
designed, built the thing in like 2 weeks. And then it was ready for launch, and, became pretty popular. And they said, all right, John, this looks like good. Like, why don't you join our team, and, we'll pay you, for the next, they're like, well,
Wow.
for the next 3 months is what they told me. And I was like, well, I really need like a 6 to 9 month or 12-month agreement, right? To leave my job. And they're like, oh, no problem. Well,
Oh, no
we,
problem. So it goes from the 3 months to longer, and no problem. Okay.
exactly. So what do you think happened? Well, the site did so well, the idea got thrown around so much that Sarah Palin
Oh,
then
wow.
announced she was going to be the VP, and so therefore they didn't need the site anymore, and I was back on the job market. So
Wow, you did so well. You kind of worked yourself out of a job there.
I worked myself out of a job, right? So that's that story. So that's how I got, you know, that was my first transition out of sales, and then you just become, like, your own salesperson, like running,
Yeah.
your own company, learning how to sell, right? When your livelihood depends on it, right? And then eventually, as you grow your company, so that your employees can be happy and provide for their families, and you can provide for yours, and so on. So
So that's a great tee up. So as an entrepreneur myself, I can empathize with that. The joy, the excitement, the tears and fears, and everything in between. You jumped back into sales for a second stint. That's a tough decision as a founder, as an entrepreneur, to go back to working for someone. What was going on? What was in your mind? What were you considering as you looked at that change?
as a founder and a business owner, like, every year around October, I'd sit down and I'd have a book. I'm
Hmm.
like, what have we done well this year? What do we want to do next year? What does the next 5 years for the company look like, right?
Hmm.
And I'd owned the company for 10 years, and every year in October, I'd like write pages and pages and pages. Well, when I went to go do it that last year, there's nothing. So I was like, well, maybe
Wow.
I'm just tired, right? Like, I just had my first child, you know, um, maybe I'm just tired. So October is blank, November, December, nothing. Right. So then I was just like, and then I got to the point, I just like brought everyone together and I was like, look, I'm done. Like, I feel like I'm not leading you well. I'm not leading our customers well. I'm
Wow.
burnt out or something, right? Like, I'm telling you all this. I'm not leaving you empty handed. I want you guys to decide if you want to buy this from me,
Hmm.
or, like, I'm happy to sell it. I can show you how, people would price it. Like, we're not trying to, like, take advantage of anyone here, but I'm done. I don't even have a new job right now, but I feel like, is someone who's going to lead you, right? That that I need to be upfront and honest with you about where I am. And so, I mean, then I started, I'd already kind of like started the discussions, with WP Engine. I was a 1,500th customer. There's 100, I think 110,000 now, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so, I kind of gone through some back channels and started talking to them a little bit, and I talked to the head of sales, and, I was going to be the first remote hire for the sales organization, which now I think it's like 120 worldwide. And I mean, we have, sales folks in London and in Brisbane, Australia, but we had never, hired someone like from Nashville or wherever, right? Like, that was going to be on their own. Um, so, and I kind of looked at it and I was like, well, they said, we need you to sell to people who are just like you. Like, your profile is going to, you're going to be able to talk to people who are just like you. Right. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Right. Something
Did
that,
it work out like that? I mean, the idea of stepping in and selling to an ICP, that an ideal customer profile that and live and breathe, that's a great opportunity. But
mhm.
is that what you got to experience?
I mean, you're in sales, right? So
Hmm.
things change, especially in a like we're a really fast growing company, right?
Yeah.
So things are always evolving and changing, but most of the time it looked similar to what I was doing.
Great.
I think, in our space, right, in the software space and the agency space, right, there are some similarities between people, right? And so like I can quickly connect with folks, right, and tell stories, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, I think those things remain consistent, and that's helped to be me. That's helped me be successful at the company.
So now that you're in this new role, you're selling to, I mean, you're selling a much more sophisticated product. I'm thinking back to your Dell printers,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
arguably a more strategic purchase. Um, what's been your big takeaway now? What surprised you most about this side of selling?
Sure. I think that, especially with what is going on in the world right now, right? With
Hmm.
COVID and just a lot of businesses, moving more online or moving more of their experiences online.
Hmm.
It's a really exciting, space to be in just overall, right? Like
Hmm.
I know you've never done curbside delivery or even thought of selling your products online, or maybe you need to sell them a different way, like being innovative that way. I think, also just with WP Engine being like a WordPress platform, right, an open source platform, it allows people to build those experiences a lot faster and for oftentimes a lot lower price point than if they would have, purchased something, originally thought a little bit more upmarket, and a lot more expensive and a lot more time to like get to market, right? And which I think is like a great place, right? Like I'm able to um, help folks do that, right? And basically, for lack of a better term, like kind of save their business, right? Because it doesn't take a year and a half to implement this thing, right? You can do it in a month.
And that's fantastic. And is I imagine hearing that coming from someone who is a business owner and an entrepreneur themselves, that must come across really clearly and be a delight to hear in a sales call. So I, I can imagine how fun your sales calls are right now. That must be great.
And I've got other bruises, right? I've done it before.
Yeah.
I've been successful and not successful, right? So I can share those experiences, which is fun and exciting at the same time.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, as a customer, I'm really happy with the platform, and I'm really happy that this is working out better for you than the printers. This is a good thing.
Yeah, I can tell you that if I only sold six in a month, I'd probably be looking for another job right now too. So
John, this has been great. Do you mind if we hit some rapid fire questions before you need to go?
sure,
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll keep these quick for you. Um, Sales tools. What is your favorite sales tool?
I love DocSend.
Nice, nice. There was confidence there. Do you end up using it a lot?
I love to, for lack of a better term, stalk, right? And when I see I've I've talked to you about something for however long, I've told my stories, I want to see that if you want to learn more, right? So like, I
Nice.
love seeing like the notification come up that hey, someone spent 5 minutes. I'm
There
like,
we go.
great. So I'm doing my job, right?
Cool. Okay, so that's great for that workspace. But outside of work, personally, movies. What's your favorite movie?
Sure. I think, Braveheart has always been a favorite one of mine,
Oh,
right? That classic story of,
it is
of beating the big guys, right? Even though you're undermanned.
nice. Okay, you've been a teacher, you've been an entrepreneur, you're in sales and tech. But when you were a little kid, what did you want to grow up to be?
This is going to be depressing. I wanted to be a teacher.
I don't know about depressing. You got to do it right away. You
I
got,
got to do it right away, but I didn't end up doing it right. So,
well, you accomplished the dream and then set a new one. I would
well,
see it that way.
or it could have been, I'm watching all the Michael Jordan documentaries, so it also could have been Michael Jordan. So,
There you go. John, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and taking the time to speak with us.
thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm looking forward to our next conversation. Hope you stay safe, and we'll chat again soon.
Sounds good.